The Turn 4 Perspective. Weekly dirt racing news brought to you by Brooke Johnpier.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Turn 4 Perspective. I am your host, Brooke Johnpier, and I am really excited to jump into the world of audio journalism. So, without further ado, let me introduce myself and what I will be doing here on this podcast, which will be out every Thursday on both Spotify and YouTube. Like I said, I'm Brooke. I am currently a sophomore at St. Bonaventure University, where I am majoring in sports media and minoring in Native American and Indigenous Studies and English. And my goal is to be a motorsports and automotive journalist and also do music as well. So that's why I'm doing all this stuff with dirt racing. So what will this podcast be? This podcast will be about the dirt racing news every week that happens, and I will be telling you about it. So I will be saying some of my own opinions, but I will be saying winners, any events that are noteworthy, and just bringing the news to you in a fashion that is very informative. So here we go. So on Thursday, September 5th, for the Super Dirt Car Series, Alex Payne won at Brockville, Ontario Speedway. Now, if you don't follow the Super Dirt Car Series or don't know who Alex Payne is, you really need to, because Alex Payne has been racing for quite a while now, and he got his first Super Dirt Car Series win, which is absolutely massive for him, and we are very proud of Alex. And if you look at the photos, you can see the emotion on his face, and it was a very good win, and we are so proud of Alex, and we hope that he continues to win more races and make a bigger name for himself. Then the next day at Can-Am Speedway, Matt Williamson won, and Matt is in the chase for the points championship along with Matt Shepard. So that brought his points up, and it's sort of interesting because Can-Am is here in America, and Matt, who's a Canadian, won. But in Ontario, Alex Payne won, and Alex is from America. So there's a bit of a flip-flop there with the Super Dirt Car Series. But both totally earned their wins, and both are really good in their series. So kudos to them. Moving on to the World of Outlaws. So the World of Outlaws only had their Sprint Car Series, which is sponsored by NOS Energy Drink, this past weekend, which was Friday and Saturday. And they're out on the West Coast. And on Friday, they were at Stockton Dirt Track. And Michael, whose nickname is Buddy Kofoid, won that race. That dirt track looked a bit rough in the highlights that I watched, and it was a little bit dusty, but Kofoid did earn a really good win after he won one at Huset's Speedway. So Kofoid earned a win at Huset Speedway and then went on out to the West Coast and got a win at Stockton Dirt Track. The next day, they continued their stay in California and went to Kings Speedway, and there Carson Macedo won. Now, this goes back to Huset Speedway last week, of where Kofoid crossed over Macedo for the win on the last lap, and then now they're doing the same thing, sort of, with a rivalry out in California. So it's really interesting to see how they do that, and how the same drivers stay in those top positions. Moving on to the other sprint division that just left the West Coast and now is back on the East Coast in Pennsylvania, to be more specific. High Limit Racing was at Port Royal Speedway for the Tuscarora 50. The Tuscarora 50 has been on for 57 years, and starting on Thursday, a winner that hasn't won in 112 days, Brad Sweet, took the win for the preliminary night one. On night 2, Aaron Reitzel claimed the win for the night before the Tuscarora 50, and the winner of the big race was Rico Abreu. Now, this gets pretty interesting because Pennsylvania is known for their PA Posse. The PA Posse is some of the best sprint car drivers in the country, and they're known for beating the top dogs. So on Thursday with Sweet Running, that gave a point to the high limit high rollers. With Reitzel winning on Friday, that gave a point to an invader. Neither the high-limit big driver or the small-town PA Posse, but an invader, as Reitzel is a part of neither. And on Saturday, with Rico Abreu winning, that gave a point to high limit once again. So the score currently sits at high limit with 2, invaders with 1, and the Posse with 0. Now, that's not to say that the runner-up positions weren't filled with the Posse. In fact, they were on nights 2 and 3. So the points are about even if you look at it that way. But high limit racing continues to stay in Pennsylvania this weekend at Lernerville Speedway on Friday. So it'll be very interesting to see where the scores go, who gets to be where, and if the Posse can come back in their home state. Now, moving on to the American Sprint Car Series, Aaron Reitzel claimed a win last night at Clay County Speedway in a 360 car. So Aaron is not only racing with a bunch of different series, but he is winning all over, and he is making a name for himself, which is pretty cool. Now, moving on to the last topic of today's episode is the World 100. This is why the World of Outlaws Case Construction late models didn't run this past weekend, nor did the Lucas Oil late model dirt series. All of the drivers in both nationwide series were at the World 100 at Eldora Speedway, which ran from September 5th through September 8th. Now, there were all sorts of different winners, all sorts of different people at the World 100. But the main event was for the 100-lap race, which has been on for 54 years at Eldora. Now, there were 8 different leaders during this race, but the key competitors were Bobby Pierce, Dale McDowell, Garrett Alberson, and Jonathan Davenport. Now, there is some controversy with Bobby Pierce's win because Dale McDowell was in the lead, and Bobby Pierce came down and got in front of him and ended up winning. I watched the highlights that Flow Racing put out, and I think that Bobby Pierce passed him cleanly. Here's why. Dale got behind lap cars. If you know anything about dirt racing, you know that lap cars play a big factor into who can win a race. Although sometimes some lap cars should pull in and let the leaders drive by, most of the time they don't, and that can change the outcome of any race regardless of who it is. That's what happened around lap 75 of the World 100. Dale got behind a couple lap cars, and they were holding him up, and Bobby took the high side, and he went on the high side, and he got by him, and he slid down in front of the lap cars, earning the lead. I've seen a bunch of controversy on social media saying that Dale earned it, Bobby screwed him over, but I believe that Bobby totally earned that win, because from what I saw, it was a clean move, and he didn't do it. Now, on the last turn of the race, Dale did try to come down on the bottom and pull a slide job on Bobby. But Dale couldn't make it since he was too far behind. So, I guess it's up to you if you want to say if it's clean or dirty, but I believe it's clean because Bobby didn't hit him, Bobby didn't slam him, Bobby didn't, shove him into the wall or anything. It was a clean move on the high side around the lap cars, around Dale McDowell, and he slid into first. So I believe Bobby totally earned that, and that is my opinion. You're entitled to your own, but I believe that Bobby effing Pierce won that race. Well, anyway, y'all, that is all I have for this week. I know it is a pretty short show and what you might not have been expecting, but that is the latest news in the dirt track racing world, and I plan to bring more to you every week. And I hope to get better with each passing week with feedback and other stuff that I may receive. So thank you all for listening so much. Please be sure to go to your local dirt track and support your hometown boys and girls, including your go-karters. They are the future stars of the sport, and without them, we wouldn't have these big dogs. I know that Matt Williamson is a hometown boy at my home track of Ranceville Speedway. So we get to see him weekly at Ransomville, and that's pretty cool because he is in contention for the Super Dirt Car Series Championship once again, although he is the 2019 champion. So that is pretty cool to have someone of his stature at your home track. So please be sure to go to your home track, wherever that may be. Go and support your drivers. Make sure you get merch as well. These cars aren't cheap to operate, and the payouts aren't great. So be sure to do that. And thank you all for listening so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support and your interest, especially in the sport and in me. It means more than you can imagine. And I will be back next week with more dirt racing news. Thank you.
WSBU 88.3, The Buzz.